Hello guys, it's Johnny time and welcome to another decentralized finance tutorial. Today we're gonna start something special, something new. We're gonna start some kind of series of multiple episodes where we're gonna take every single function on PancakeSwap, every function that you are basically doing on the website, and we will try to understand behind the scenes what it actually is doing in the smart contract. So every transaction that you are sending in day-to-day basis or maybe weekly basis, if it's transfer, swap tokens, allow, depositing tokens, prediction, lottery, every function will take it for every episode and we'll understand exactly what it does in order to make your knowledge and your education better in DeFi, decentralized exchanges, and PancakeSwap in particular. The first one, this tutorial is gonna be about the allow function. So this is the function where you every time click allow, if it's in order to swap tokens or to stake tokens or to enter into farming or provide liquidity, or doesn't matter, the allow function comes everywhere. So we'll understand today what is this allow function. We'll look at it and we'll understand the importance of it for the security and what does it actually means. But before we start with the tutorial, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and click the small bell notification button, so every time I post this kind of videos, and I will keep posting this kind of episodes, you will get them as soon as possible and you will be able to watch them and get more decentralized finance education. So without further ado, let's jump deep dive into the allow function on PancakeSwap. So I guess that you're already familiar with PancakeSwap, what is swapping, adding liquidity, etc., etc. If not, please check out my other videos. I have plenty of them on PancakeSwap and DeFi in my channel. I will put links in the description below so you cannot miss it. But in this tutorial, I'm assuming that you already know what is swap, what is farms, what are zero pools, etc., etc., lottery, whatever. So right now we are here on the swap interface on PancakeSwap website. So if you're familiar with PancakeSwap, you see that every time, the first time you're trying to swap a token that you never swapped before, you will actually have this kind of button enable. So you will not be able to swap it right after immediately, but first you will need to, a prerequisite will be to send before a transaction to allow the smart contract to spend your tokens. So now we need to understand why it happens and how it works basically. So for this example right now, let's say I want to swap this single cake token into BUSD tokens. So the first thing I will need to do is click here, enable cake. What is happening actually right here is it will prompt a MetaMask pop-up in order to send transaction. As you can see here, allow PancakeSwap Finance to spend your cake token. So this is basically how MetaMask shows me, and by sending this transaction, I'm allowing one of the smart contracts, we'll see in a moment which kind of smart contract it is, to spend and use the cake tokens that in my wallet. That's exactly what it means. So it means that this kind of smart contract can get all my tokens and do whatever he wants with my tokens. Actually, not all my tokens, but usually it's just a specific amount of tokens. For example, in this case is 1.06 something cakes. So another thing that people does not know is actually that they can click here, edit permission. And right here, by default, it will be unlimited. So actually we're allowing the smart contract to use whenever, anytime that we have cakes in my wallet, the smart contract is able to spend it and to do whatever he wants with it, actually. This because it's unlimited. Actually, I can change it to custom spend limit and write, let's say, this spend limit, or whatever limit that I want, and just limit the smart contract with a certain amount of limit, so it will not be able to spend all my cakes, but only a specific amount of cake tokens. So by default, it will be unlimited, and it will give the smart contract permission to allow it to use your cake tokens, in that case cake, in other cases, whatever token you're going to swap, it will be other tokens to use the tokens, and the smart contract needs this kind of permission in order to perform the swap, because if you do not allow the smart contract to spend your tokens, it basically cannot do the swap, because you cannot send him it cannot send in your behalf your cake tokens, transfer them, call the transfer function, which is another thing that we'll discuss on another tutorial. So I'm gonna click here, confirm, and send a transaction, and in a moment we'll see exactly and we'll analyze what this kind of transaction is doing exactly. We'll see it on BSC scan. We will be able to analyze it and reverse engineer it together. So now the transaction has been done, and I can see that the cake has been approved. I basically approved the smart contract to use my cake token, and now let's take a look at the transaction. So this is BSC scan. If you're not familiar with it, there is another tutorial where I explain what is BSC scan and how to use it. But this is the view of a single transaction that's being included in the block. So here you can see the transaction hash, the status is success, confirmations, time step, etc., etc. The important things that we need to look at is actually from is my wallet address. Basically, this is my wallet address because I was this one who initiated and sent the transaction. And two, actually, you can see that the transaction has been sent to a smart contract that represents the cake token. Every token on Binance Smart Chain is token of the type of BEP20, BEP20. This is exactly the same like ERC20 on Ethereum, but just the same implementation on Binance Smart Chain. So almost every token that you will swap or you will have in your wallet will be BEP20 token. Now you might ask why there is no different smart contract for every token. And the answer is quite simple. There are two main reasons to do that. The first reason, which is the less important one, is reuse of code. If someone already implemented a smart contract that represents a token, there is no need to rewrite the smart contract from scratch and build everything from scratch, because we already have code that does the same functionality that we need, which is basically transfer tokens, checking how much balance every single wallet have, approving other wallet to spend my tokens, etc., etc. So this is the first reason. The secondary reason is basically that all the tokens will have the same kind of fodder. They all inherit the functions from the BEP20 tokens. And this is super important because it makes it very easily to integrate the tokens in different platforms. This is the reason why you can swap tokens. You buy them on PancakeSwap, and then later you can sell them on 1inch, and then later you can stake them on Bakery Finance, because it holds the same protocol. It's all based on the same, an inheritance from the same smart contract of BEP20 token. This is called BEP20 compatible tokens, which means that the cake token as well is BEP20 tokens. So now before we take a look at the smart contract, let's take a look here. Click here to see more, and then let's take a look at the transaction action first. So here on the transaction action, you can see approved cake token for trade on PancakeSwap router. So this is some kind of summary. This is a new feature on BSC scan where they summarized the functionality that basically happened through these transactions, and they summarize it really nice. And they're saying basically you approved the smart contract that's called PancakeSwap router, which is the smart contract that is responsible for all the swaps that you are doing, is basically going through the smart contract that's called PancakeSwap router, and we approve the smart contract to spend our cake tokens. Now, if you want to get a bit more technical, we'll click here. So right here in this button, click to see more, and now you can see actually the transaction, the function call itself, and you can see that we call the function name approved, and we send it 2 parameters. So even if you don't have any experience with coding or anything, you can still understand it because it's quite easy to understand. So you can see that we basically send 2 parameters. The first one is the spender. This is a parameter with a type of address, a wallet. And then the second one is integer, which is the amount. So basically we call the approve function and tell it who are we willing to letting to spend our tokens and how many tokens we want to spend. And now you can see here 2 arguments. This is the 2 action. This is the method ID. This is basically every function has an ID, and then the argument number 0, which is the spender, and then argument number 1, which is the amount. But this is not very easy to read because it's in hexadecimal values. So in order to see it in a much easier way, in more human readable way, we'll click here decode input data. And once we click decode input data, now we can see that the spender, the address, this is the address, and we can actually click it in order to jump into this kind of wallet or smart contract. And the amount is limited, right? Because we chose unlimited on the MetaMask wallet. So we can see actually that we allowed some kind of address to spend our tokens, cake tokens. And can you guys guess who is the spender? Who is the spender that we're actually allowed to spend the cake tokens? And the spender, let's see if you were right, is actually the PancakeSwap router smart contract, which is the smart contract that's responsible for every swap that you are doing on PancakeSwap. Let's verify it and now open this kind of wallet address in a new tab. And now you can actually see here that this is a contract, and the contract name is PancakeSwap Router V2. This is a version 2 of the router of the PancakeSwap platform. And this is the PancakeSwap router, and that's exactly how we expected. Now let's take a look at the contract of the cake token, because remember, we called the function approve. The function exists on the cake token smart contract, and we're basically telling the cake token smart contract, listen, we want to let the PancakeSwap router smart contract to use our cake, to spend our cake tokens. So now let's take a look at the approve function. So I'm gonna open here the PancakeSwap cake token. And don't worry, I will put all the links in the description below so you can do the reverse engineering by yourself and learn by yourself. And I actually recommend you to look at it by yourself in order to learn and understand more how it works. So you can see here that right now we jumped into the PancakeSwap cake token, which is the smart contract where we call the function approve. Now we're gonna go into the contract tab and we're gonna open the code here. So you can actually go and scroll down and look for the function, but there is actually easier way. You can click here the outline button and look for a summarize of all the functions. So we'll scroll down a bit and you can see that this is IBEP20 because the cake token is basically doing inheritance for this kind of smart contracts of BEP20 address, a lot of imports of different smart contracts, but this is the contracts that interesting for us is cake tokens. So we're gonna click here and automatically it will jump into the smart contract or maybe to the function. So you can see here that the contract cake token is BEP20. This is inheritance, which means that the cake token is type of BEP20 and he's going to implement, he needs to implement all the functions that are in BEP20, which is the native token in Binance Smart Chain to preserve the same protocol for all the tokens. So now we can see all the function. There is function called mint to mint tokens, delegates, etc., but we are interested in the approve function. And actually the approve function will not be here because it's already implemented on the BEP20 smart contract. The cake token does not need to implement it itself because it's already implemented for every token on the Binance Smart Chain. So we'll go up a bit to BEP20 and right here we go into approve, allowance, approve. This is the function that we are looking for. So right now, this is the function approve, and you can see that it gets these two arguments, spender and amount. All right, so here is the approve function, and right now you can see this is an internal function. Basically, there are two functions, one is external and one is internal. The external is available to everyone to call from the external world, and the internal is only available to be called within the smart contract, but it's too technical, so we're not gonna jump into this, but we're just gonna see this approve function and understand what it is. So basically, excuse me. So you can see right here that the approve function gets the owner, the spender, and the amount. The owner is being sent from the public function, but this is basically the wallet who sent the transaction, which is my wallet. And you can see that right here that there are two require lines here to check that actually the owner is an existing address, and if not, the transaction will be reverted, and also the spender is existing address. And now what will happen is basically there is some kind of not array but a mapping object here, and we are allowing here there is an object that we call the owner. We select basically the cell with the owner and then the spender, and then we equal the amount. So there is a kind of mapping object that maps every owner what kind of spenders he letting to use the tokens. So let's say there is an if you're familiar with Python, it's like dictionaries. In JavaScript, also dictionaries, and here it's called mapping. So you have an object, this object called allowances, and now we have a lot of addresses. One of the addresses is my wallet, and once you get into my wallet, you have a lot of addresses, which are all the addresses that I allowed to spend this kind of cake token. All right, and of course there will be the amount, so it will be object of allowance, then it will be wallets that allow other wallets to spend the cake token. Then for my wallet it will be all the spenders that I approved, and then for it will be matched the amount of cake tokens that I allow to every spender to spend. And you can see right here there is an emit command which actually flags and fires an event into the blockchains in order for front-end application so they can know that actually something happened on the blockchain, and this is an event that shows that actually someone approved other spender to spend the cake tokens. So this is the approve function at a glance, and I wanted to explain it to you because this is super important function, because you have to understand that right now the smart contract can do whatever it wants with all your cake tokens. This is super important, and what you want to do next is check all the spenders that you allowed. Maybe you allowed to another DeFi app which is scam, eventually is a scam, and now the smart contract still is able to spend your tokens. This is super dangerous, and you want to make sure that you don't allow too many addresses to spend your tokens. So in order to check it, you can go to this kind of website which is called app unwrecked.net, and basically this website you can connect your wallet and it will show you all the allowance that basically in the past you allowed other spenders to spend tokens in all the history, and actually to revoke it back and remove the access to spend the tokens. So right now this is the most recent function that I called, basically the most recent transaction that I allowed the PancakeSwap router to spend my cake tokens, and you can see right now all the history. This is the mooncake from the previous tutorial about the bakery swap, and MasterChef from previous tutorials that I just show you examples. But this is the recent transaction. You can see actually here the block number. This is the most recent transaction that we just did now. So if we go back to the PancakeSwap platform, and we see that right now the enable button is grayed out and the swap button is highlighted, because now we allow the contract to spend our tokens, and the user interface is aware of this fact. So now we are going to revoke the access of the smart contract to spend our tokens, and we're going to remove the allowance. So we're going to click here revoke, and it will prompt another MetaMask pop-up in order to send a transaction. And we're gonna send the transaction and then of course analyze it on the blockchain. So the transaction has been sent. We will refresh the page here of my wallet to see the transaction, and this is the transaction. So let's get into the transaction. It's the same method, right? So we call from the same wallet to the same contract, to the cake token contract, and now let's get into the transaction details. Revoked cake from trade of PancakeSwap router will remove the access, and this is the exact same transaction, just this time the amount will be 0. You see, this is the only difference. So basically we call the same function again, the approve function, but this time with amount 0, and we're removing the access from the PancakeSwap router smart contracts from using our cake tokens and sending them through. And now if we will go back to the PancakeSwap platform and we will refresh this page, we'll see that now the swap token will be grayed out and the enable token will be activated. Let's confirm it. And there you go, guys. So now enable cake, you can see here that I need to enable the token again because I revoked the access using this kind of website and sending an allow transaction with 0 amount. So this was the first tutorial and first guide about the PancakeSwap backend, PancakeSwap behind the scene. We learned what is the allowance function, what is allow, what happens when you allow tokens. Doesn't matter if it's in the swap function or the farms or the adding liquidity. This is all the same. All the smart contracts need to use your tokens. So first you need to allow them to spend your tokens. So we understand how it is. We looked at the smart contracts and we reverse engineered it in order to understand better. And I hope you guys liked it. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. I always like to talk with you and discuss with you, and I learn even more from your comments. Or if you have any suggestions, what interests you, what kind of other videos you want me to make behind the scenes, maybe other things, other platform, other functionalities, I will be more than happy to listen. And again, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification button, and please consider smashing this like button so this video will get to as many people as we can and they can learn more about DeFi and PancakeSwap in particular. Thank you so much once again for watching my videos, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.